Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I am scrapbooking this photo of my grandparents on their wedding day in 1953. I will be using these supplies in addition to that newspaper clipping that you see there in the middle of the screen. That newspaper clipping is from December 28th, 1953. So let's get started. First, I am going to trim down this cream piece of cardstock to 9 by 12. It is going to be my background that the pattern paper rests on. I'm going to use that aqua paper from Maggie Holme's Confetti collection and the floral piece of paper from Crate Paper's Kraft market. So here I am just marking where I want to trim the paper because I want the cream cardstock to back the entire layout. Once I get that figured out, I'm going to create a small border around the aqua piece of paper using this really pretty floral. I like the extra color that it added to the layout. I think it would have been just too flat without it. So I go ahead and get that trimmed down. It's probably less than 1/4 inch of a border around that whole thing. And I didn't cut the middle out because I have 2 sheets of this paper, so I wanted to use it up. Okay, so once that's stuck down, I go ahead and take my 3x4 photo and layer that onto the page with this newspaper clipping and a tag that I used from the Kraft Market cut-apart sheet. I fidget around with that for a little bit before I get everything stuck down. So here we go, a 62-year-old newspaper clipping is going down on the page. That's what that hand gesture was about. And then I'm just, again, fidgeting with where I want things. I had some trouble with the odd-shaped clipping and the tag and everything on the page. So in order for me to figure that out, I had to turn my camera off because I get a little nervous when you guys are watching. And I realized that if I cut off part of that camera die cut at the top, no one but me is going to know. So that helped me work around it, and I layered underneath the newspaper clipping. I also cut out another camera from that same pattern paper and put it onto the right side of the photo. Next, I am working on my title. It's simply the date that my grandparents were married, December 25th, 1953. I wanted to tie in some more of the brown at the bottom of the layout, so I used those Kraft thickers from Tangerine's Stitch collection. Now, because this layout is so heavy on the top right, I wanted to balance it a little more on the bottom left. So I pulled out this teal piece of paper from the Kraft Market collection and a couple sheets of vellum. I really wanted this to work, so I trimmed it down a little bit, but I didn't like the way that it kind of hung below the photo there and interfered with the title. So a doily to the rescue. I put a doily down there to kind of soften all of those straight edges, and I'm still working with that teal piece of pattern paper trying to make it on there. It does end up to the right of the photo and with the camera resting on it. Now I still wanted to add a little more visual weight to the left side of the page, so I am going in with the white vellum, and I'm going to layer that underneath the doily and the tag. So I'm using my pencil to kind of mark where I want to trim that down, and I had to make a few alterations to the size of the vellum before I was happy with it. C'est la vie. Next, I want to bring the vellum over to the right. I felt like the newspaper clipping wasn't really sitting on anything, and it just didn't look right to me. So I get the vellum down, I trim off the excess so that it hangs a little further to the right than the newspaper clipping. And then I go ahead and get a larger piece of the teal pattern paper stuck down on top of it. And then I layer the camera on top of that. And that actually comes in handy in a minute, and you will see why. So next, I pierced a hole in the tag, and I'm using some twine to tie a knot around the hole just to add some more texture to the page. I really like how that looks. Next, I get my journaling down, and there's not much more to say with this newspaper clipping. It pretty much tells you the date, the time, the place that my grandparents were married. But I happen to know that my grandparents didn't have a wedding per se, and I'm documenting that here on the tag to the left of the newspaper clipping. Also, in the newspaper article, it refers to my grandmother's matron of honor, identifying her by her husband's name, and I wanted to document that it was her older sister Ethel and not Ms. Jack Trolovitz. Now, I ran out of room for my journaling on the tag, and I had to use the teal piece of pattern paper off to the right. And I wrapped up my journaling by saying, I can imagine Nanny, a giddy newlywed, clipping this announcement from their local newspaper. Once I wrap up the journaling, I go ahead and put down 3 embellishment clusters, very small, around the layout. To the left of the photo, where the edge of the tag was hanging off, next to the camera on the right, and above the newspaper clipping. And that's it. A list of all the supplies I used is in the description below. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment. Thanks for watching. See you soon.